Okay, I didn't plan on talking about the NBA. Quick NBA story really quickly because I actually was listening during the break, and one of our sponsors, Escape Experience Chattanooga, which that sounds really fun to me. Different scenarios, your different locked room scenarios, especially, and you're trying to figure out what's going on, and they give you clues, and you're trying to figure out how to get out of the room, and it teaches you to work together. They're great for team building exercises. They're really, really great for just entertainment. You want a church group there, and so the Lakers actually had an escape room situation. And I forget the name of the player, but the Lakers had one of I think they were in Milwaukee. It was in Milwaukee. They were on their East Coast road trip. Okay. And so they went to a thing that does exactly what Escape Room Experience in Chattanooga here does, and did their escape room challenge. It was Milwaukee. But here's the issue. One of the players got traded. Luol Deng, that's who it was. Luol Deng got traded before they went into the escape room. And then Luol Deng and Lakers head coach Luke Walton couldn't figure out the clues to get out of the room. And Luke Walton and Luol Deng were stuck in a room together. A player and a coach and his ex-player couldn't get out of the room. So what I'm saying is, if you're going to Escape Experience Chattanooga, try not to have anybody who's in transition, who's probably been fired, and go in there and have them learn that after the fact. Luol Deng got traded and then was stuck in this room with his former coach for like an hour. Also, Lonzo Ball won the escape room challenge. So there's that too, if you also wanted to know that. But yeah. So let's get to the NFL really quickly, because that was also fascinating as well. There was the drama, obviously, surrounding the day, because were players going to kneel? Were players not going to kneel on Veterans Day? Would people find that profoundly disrespectful, more so than usual? There was a giant Facebook group about whether or not we're going to boycott this. Are we all agreeing to boycott this? So people had decided to boycott the NFL. Now, the NFL's ratings were down from last year, but that's been consistent through all the weeks this season, even before the protests started, right? Like, the NFL's ratings have been down this year, more so than usual after the protests, but down this year even before the protests. And so there wasn't a substantial dip from last week to this week in the ratings being down. And in quite a few NFL cities, attendance went up. Buffalo, Chicago, Jacksonville, Detroit, Indy, Tennessee, Tampa, and Washington, attendance went up, even though the protests did continue through Veterans Day. Was talking to Sam Jordan on Sport Talk with Sam Jordan before this show about this very thing. And one of the things that we got to talking about was, like, there are some teams that have waiting lists. And I wonder if we just love football that much, right? Now, I'm one of those guys, and if you've listened to this show before, I support the players. I support the players. I don't think what the players are doing is wrong. I don't think the players are protesting the flag. If I thought that the players were protesting the flag, then I would oppose it, obviously. But I don't. That's not what they're protesting, right? This is simply the form in which that protest takes place. But where I am not understanding this is the people who are upset that the players are protesting the flag feel very, very strongly about it, which I can respect, by the way. I don't agree with you. I think you're wrong, but I do respect you. But then why did the attendance go up? Right? Why did the ratings from last week to this week, why did they not go down more? I just think that's odd. But it's not really. When you really think about how much America loves football, is it really that strange? Okay? Take the protests out of this. In the NFL, we have had rapists. We have had domestic abusers. We have had gotten into accidents because they were driving under the influence, whether that is of an illicit drug or alcohol. We have had people accused of murder. We have had animal abusers, right? Mike Vick and the dog killing. And I don't need to rehash all the stuff with Michael Vick and how brutal the killing of the dogs were. Because I remember it was shocking to people. It wasn't that just Michael Vick just killed dogs, which is bad in and of itself. It was the sadistic nature in which the dogs got killed. And through all of that, ratings never dropped. So what that tells me is that we like football too much. We have principles, right? Because again, if you want to, like, for me, I don't think this is about the military. I don't think anyone's trying to disrespect the military. But I have plenty of evidence, even before this, that people will watch football regardless. Because I don't remember after Michael Vick killed those dogs and then when he came back to the NFL, I don't recall anybody outside of PETA boycotting Philadelphia Eagles games. I don't recall that. When the Cowboys signed Greg Hardy a year ago, don't remember anybody boycotting Cowboys games, even though Greg Hardy is a man who choked out allegedly choked out his then girlfriend on top of a pile of guns, which may not have legally been his guns. Like that's a double violation. Nope. No outrage then. I think we just like football too much. That might actually be true. Because people will rework their principles in the sake of football. The outrage now over players kneeling is, so when we had that rash of domestic abuse incidents, where were all the people then? We don't wonder about the safety of women, right? Like I'm not assuming horrible things about NFL fans, as I am also an NFL fan, and also I didn't stop watching either. I'm just wondering about the outrage. Why is it suddenly now? And the fact that despite the outrage, no one appears to really be anti-football. You'd think of all the days that the ratings would dip the lowest, right? And the ratings were still low. It's not like they were high, but is this as far as they've bottomed out? Because the league is still making a lot of money. And here's the thing that I noticed about the NFL too, because the NFL, with all of their promotional stuff, with doing the halftime show in an aircraft hangar on Fox, interviewing all the troops, trying to proclaim your love of the troops, doing all of these things, the NFL is doing their darndest to make this blow over, to wait for this to blow over, because there's a lot of money on the other side of this right here. That if you could ever get the players to stop kneeling, which honestly sounds incredibly difficult, and the answer here is maybe just a conversation away. That's what I think, right? The owners and the players have decided to have a meeting. Colin Kaepernick is going to one of those meetings whenever they decide to hammer out when and how. So the owners are going to try the diplomatic approach to this and see if they can get players to stop kneeling. I think that's the smart move, but the NFL will not ban it either. And the reason why the NFL won't ban it is because they don't want to upset their black fans who feel like the protests are very much justified. And it's like, whose money do you treasure? And the NFL's answer to that question is, oh, all of it. We want everybody's money. We don't want to discriminate between money. We'll take all of it. The NFL is waiting for this thing to blow over. And ESPN has been losing money on Monday Night Football, right? Like, they signed a massive Monday Night Football deal. I think maybe too much money, but in fairness, it was a bidding war. And I just think that the bidding war got to be really high. But everybody wants Monday Night Football. The ESPN could not afford to lose Monday Night Football, I don't think, right? As far as live sports go, Sunday Night Baseball and Monday Night Football are two ESPN like money makers. Can't afford to not have Monday Night Football. But they're losing money on it. If ESPN were to relinquish Monday Night Football, that speaks to me as a deeply problematic issue for ESPN, in large part because you ride this thing out the way the NFL is trying to ride this thing out. Americans love football enough. We'll be back. And they know we'll be back. They know we'll be back. And that's the crazy part. Clutch with Keon Rose on 92.7 FM, Nooga Radio, noogaradio.com, where you can have access to all of our social media, stream all of our programming live on your computer. That's actually how I listen to our station. Just pull it up on the computer. Because modern America, we don't have radios in our house. But I like to listen to stuff as I go around the house, as I do things. If I've got to clean up something, if I got to cook some stuff, because I live by myself. Yep. Listen to the radio station, noogaradio.com. So over the weekend, there were a number of things that I realized surprised me. And I don't know why they surprised me, because they shouldn't, right? Every year, some new person is winning their division that you didn't expect. For instance, I didn't expect the Saints to be this good this year. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I did not anticipate the Saints being this good. They ran through the Buffalo Bills, who have been playing inspired football, by the way. Beat them 47-10. And I know the Saints have Drew Brees. But the Saints are a multi-dimensional football team now. I mean, it's incredible. Drew Brees didn't play great yesterday. 18 of 25, 184 yards, no touchdowns. Pedestrian numbers for Drew Brees. But the Saints run the ball. 131 yards and 3 touchdowns for Mark Ingram. Another touchdown and 106 more yards from Alvin Kamara. And the fact of the matter is, you give Drew Brees a running game, even though you can tell Drew Brees is losing a step. Even though you can tell Drew Brees is getting a little up there in age. You give Drew Brees a running game, which is something that they haven't had consistently. And he'll kill most teams in the league. And I think one of the key pieces there is former Tennessee Vol, Alvin Kamara at the running back position. He gives that little extra bit of versatility to Drew Brees, being able to go out there and catch passes in the flat, being able to add that extra dimension. And then also he's a nice change of pace from Mark Ingram. Gives them a virtual extra dimension to work with. And suddenly, you just can't beat the Saints. right? I believe they're 7-2 on the year. I mean, this team is playing absolutely incredible football. You just can't beat them when they're playing like this. And the defense, by the way, which has been awful for just ages, is stepping up. It's been about, 2 or 3 years of bad, absolutely horrible Saints defense. The Saints missed the playoffs, back-to-back seasons, below 500, back-to-back seasons. All of a sudden, the Saints are in the driver's seat in the NFC South. Speaking of the NFC South, the Falcons get it together, beat the Cowboys. And I don't know how to feel about that victory, right? On one hand, 27-7 is a bit of a statement, especially when you're going to beat a Dallas team as good as this Dallas team has been this season. But then you take a further look at it, and the Cowboys are missing players all over the place. Sean Lee, injured early in the game, out. Tyron Smith, the left tackle, out. And Dak Prescott was getting just clocked from his blind side, right? Like, Dak Prescott got a really good lesson in what it was like to be Tony Romo in Dallas for the last 6 years. Tony Romo was a Dallas Cowboy with no running back and no offensive line. That's what it was like to be Tony Romo. For those of you who think that Tony Romo stinks, and those of you who think that Tony Romo is not a great quarterback, Dak Prescott learned on Sunday what it was like to be Tony Romo. When you take away that running game and you take away a part of that offensive line, and Tyron Smith is arguably the best left tackle in football, you take away those two pieces. You take away a key part of the defense in Sean Lee. And what you have is not even close to a good football team, right? Because you're missing 4 major components there. And the Falcons took advantage. Now, the Falcons had some injuries of their own that they were dealing with. They have their own issues on their offensive line. Devontae Freeman gets injured in the first quarter of that game. And it was rough. It was a rough outing for the Cowboys. Right? The Falcons just decided, okay, no Devontae Freeman. I guess it's time to start just throwing the ball. And throw the ball, they did. Julio Jones came alive. Mohamed Sanu came alive. Austin Hooper came alive. And this looked like, for moments in that game, like last year's team. Right? Steve Sarkisian, and they even mentioned this in the broadcast before the game, Steve Sarkisian comes in. He's got a game plan. The game plan is we're going to run the ball because we know the Cowboys have been iffy against the run. Devontae Freeman gets injured almost immediately and just flips the script to, I guess we're throwing the ball now. And Dallas didn't see him able to figure out how to stop Matt Ryan all day long. Just too many injuries for the Cowboys. And so the Falcons get the win. My question is, does this mean that they're back on track? Because I don't think it necessarily does. I want to see the Falcons beat a team that's healthy. They have not yet shown me they can do that. Beat a healthy team. And beat a team in a close game. Next week, they go up against Seattle. They beat Seattle last year in the playoffs. Dropped a close one to them last regular season. This game, I think both teams look diminished this year, but I think that Atlanta took several steps back. And without Devontae Freeman, look, and I understand that, by the way, the Seahawks are not completely healthy. They've lost Richard Sherman for the season. But I don't understand, if you're Atlanta, whether or not you should be optimistic because of that win, or you should think that this is kind of business as usual. Like, oh, yeah, no. You're supposed to beat the team with an injured left tackle, Pro Bowl middle linebacker, and rookie of the year running back. And I'm not impressed. I don't know whether or not to be impressed with their performance yesterday. But they're going to have to start beating good teams that are healthy. They're going to have to start beating teams in the division that are good and that are healthy, right? They play Seattle on their schedule. They still got to play Tampa Bay, who's awful for whatever reason. But they got to play Minnesota, who's tremendous, one of the best defenses in the league. They've got to play New Orleans. They've got to play New Orleans again. And they've got to play Carolina one more time. And they didn't show any particular ability to stop Cam Newton whatsoever. Cam Newton ran the ball down their gullet. So I don't know. Are the Falcons working it out? It helps that you're a game above 500, but you're going to have to do better than that because I don't see them catching the Saints to take back control of this division. Do you? I don't think they have it. And the Titans yesterday playing the Bengals. Close game. Good game. Marcus Mariota impresses me all the time. I thought the Titans were playing better than the Bengals were for much of this game. But there were moments where it was hard to stop A.J. Green because there's always moments where it's hard to stop A.J. Green. And Andy Dalton figured out the secret formula to his success, which is throw the ball to A.J. Green. I feel like Andy Dalton knows this too. When I see Andy Dalton going out there, going through his progressions, I feel like Andy Dalton is pretending to go through his progressions because somehow he winds up flinging the ball in A.J. Green's in direction. And by the way, some of these throws, A.J.'s double covered. Sometimes he's triple covered. So I know Andy didn't really go through any progressions. If you expect me to believe that this man tried to read a defense and actually read it and decided to throw it to the guy in triple coverage, then I don't believe that he read the defense. I don't believe you, okay? I don't. How do you read a defense and throw the ball to A.J. Green in triple coverage? Now, he's A.J. Green, so it'll make you look good, but I remember there was one throw in that game. Andy Dalton throws the ball to A.J. Green, who is double covered, right? Just sandwiched between two Titans. And A.J. Green, it was almost an interception, and A.J. Green made the play of the game. He ended up smacking the ball to the ground, and I actually think that A.J. was trying to make a one-handed catch. He almost did get it. But that was a horrible throw by Andy Dalton. Just an awful throw. But if you have A.J. Green to throw the ball to, you throw the ball to him on every play, too. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on 92.7 FM, Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com. Dolphins, Panthers tonight. Sam thinks this game's going to be close one, but the Panthers are going to get it. I don't think it's going to be close at all. I think that the Panthers are going to run away with this one because the Panthers have been able to win football games even when Cam has been bad. 92.7 FM, Nooga Radio, and NoogaRadio.com.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD.